Hey, how y'all doing? This is Mongo Slade, and today we're going to talk about a couple of gimmicks from our boy Aaron Stevens. So first, hit the like button. Also, hit subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed, and also thank you for your subscription. 2012 thereabouts. Damian Sandow, the intellectual savior of the masses, debuted on SmackDown. So everybody loves this gimmick, and it is fantastic. The intellectual savior of the masses is essentially, now this isn't, of course, his first rodeo. This is a guy who had been in developmental for a while. He had come and he'd come and gone, whatever. We're not talking about that. We're talking about this character. The character debuted in 2012, and he was basically, just basically what the genius was, what Dean Douglas was trying to be. Damian Sandow was actually pulling it off. He's very well spoken. He looked the part. They gave him this this coat, and it was so bundled up, so tight around his neck. It was fantastic. It was great. And Damian Sandow, it seems like something that might not work, but the performance of it was great. And the character really got off to a hot start with him basically saying certain opponents were not worth his time, and he wasn't gonna deal with the characters and with the various superstars. They were all beneath him. Then he got offended by one of them, and he actually started wrestling. So the character, of course, grew legs and became a big deal, and because it was popular, it got popular really fast because the guy can talk and he can also work. Then he hit the skids. It hit the skids for no apparent reason. He won the Money in the Bank, and then everybody was just kind of like, "Oh, okay, he's about to win the WWE Championship." And that's what everybody believes. Like, it makes sense. This character, this smart guy character that they have been portraying as really, good, has been going great, and then it just didn't happen. He lost, and that was it. After he failed to cash in the Money in the Bank, that was it. The character was done, and it was a short amount of time that the intellectual savior of the mass was around. I think it was like 2 years, and then the whole Money in the Bank stuff happened, and it fell on its ass afterwards. He found a successful tag team with Cody, the Road Scholars, I believe it was called. That was great because everything they did was fantastic. I love the Road Scholars. Cody with that goddamn mustache. That's when Cody grew that mustache. It was great. That Cody with that mustache was more entertaining than most of what AEW presents on TV because it was basically just Cody selling that he has a mustache and just having a mustache. He just grew something that simple. That should show you how ridiculous the WWE fans are. Is that you don't need to do that much. Just be somebody who didn't have a mustache before and has one now and look ridiculous doing it. Like Sheamus did the same thing when he got that mohawk, and people was just like offended by this mohawk. They was like, I can't believe Sheamus is walking around with a mohawk. I'm off topic. I'm off the subject. Anyway, Team Rose Scholars was fantastic. I believe they were the tag team champions. I'm almost certain they were the tag team champions. So they had a good run. Damian Sandow didn't have the worst run in the world. A lot of people are just going to be like, man, Damian Sandow, look at what they had with him. I'm like, yeah, look at what they had. They had a huge opportunity. I don't know what made them not decide to take that opportunity. Like, I can't find, like, is the guy the best worker in the world? You have the best body? No, but you had a character that really could have worked if you had given him, like, if you would have given him like a Bockwinkel type of situation where he was just a guy in a suit and he used big words and he offended people, which of course there's always longevity in offending people, talking over them, being the well actually, being that guy. Like, if you can be the well actually guy, it will always work. It will always work. One of the problems with these characters, they always come across very effeminate, and they didn't. We'll get to that. We'll get to that later. Anyway, everybody knows what happened to Damian Sandow. Cody left, and he had nothing. He ended up being teamed with the Miz. Then Damien Mizdow became a thing, and he got even more over from that. And then people wanted him to be the world champion and that he should have been the top star in the business because he made them laugh. And I was like, no, no, no. And all the goodwill that I had for Damian Sandow, I really got pissed arguing with people on these internet. And that was back when I used to be on like allhiphop.com, which used to be my favorite site to talk wrestling on because I used to talk wrestling with my homeboys. I should have started my channel back then. But I used to get into it with people all the time saying, look, man, just because a dude can make you laugh doesn't mean he should be the world champion. Like, come on now. Let's be realistic about this thing. And then he got released. And it was an uproar like, oh boy, Vince McMahon, he's going to regret this one. This one's going to be a big regret. 2006, 2016, 2017, Aron Rex debuts in TNA. Now, I think he had came to TNA as someone else first. I don't remember. I remember Aron Rex, though, because Aron Rex had on eyeshadow. He had on lipstick. He wore a fur coat. He had on he was basically Liberace. That was his gimmick. His gimmick was that he was Liberace and effeminate. He had a manservant who was Rockstar Spud, who also wore eyeshadow and was dressed like a gay sailor. I don't know, a gay army captain. It was bad. It was all bad. It was horrible stuff. Now the person underneath all that crap could still talk and could still work, but that character no. 2017, this guy stepped out of, it was a LOL TNA moment. Because it's like, how could you botch somebody that everybody was rooting for? Even if it was his idea, and I heard it was his idea, because he had pitched the idea of being Aron Rex in WWE, that he had pitched it, and it ended up being Damian Sandow after some people had hit it with some hammers and changed some things, and it ended up becoming Damian Sandow. But he originally wanted Aron Rex. At least that's what I think I may have heard him say. But what we got in the purest form was his original idea, which is basically to be this flaming weirdo in the vein of Liberace. Now, of course, there's going to be people who will be like, oh, what about, Buddy Rogers or Gorgeous George? They were effeminate men. Like, yeah, they were. In the 40s and 50s and 60s, where that type of stuff gets you some real heat. In modern eras, the last 10, 15 years or so, gay gimmicks get you heat with like tough guys, but they don't really get you heat with the audience anymore. People look at that stuff and they're kind of like it's baiting. Like you're trying to use gay panic to get attention. Like Goldust got legit heat. Like if Aron Rex had pulled this Aron Rex shit in 1994, it probably would have been killer, because it was still okay to just hate gay people because they were gay or because they look different. In 2017, he's basically just like, okay, well, what can we do? We just got to sit here and be quiet, because if you say anything, you call them the F word or something like that, it's not like there was cancel culture or anything, but it was just not appropriate. It just wasn't in enough of the audience for it to get any real heat. And he still portrayed the character somewhat like Damian Sandow, where he was, still smart, still being snarky, still very quick-witted, and could turn a phrase and cut promos. He was still all there. The guy could still perform. It's just that the package it was wrapped in, where people were like, no, we don't like this. We don't want to see men in eyeshadow and lipstick. And plus, Liberace was not a timely gimmick at all. In 2017, Liberace had been dead for what? 20 years at that point or something like that? He had been dead for a long time. You might have needed to do somebody that was a little bit recent. And I don't know who that would be. There's numerous people to model yourself after today. But in 2017, I don't know who he could have done that. I know that it's easy to do those kinds of characters because they're evergreen. the Liberace's, the Gorgeous George, the Buddy Rogers, those sort of effeminate male characters, it's always going to get some heat with people because there's always going to be a subsection of the audience that's going to be like, what is this sissy doing? Now, it's interesting because the intellectual characters almost always presented as being weak, effeminate, and again, sissies. And they did, Sandow kind of leaned into it, Now, there's in sort of color theory, there's a thing that's called bisexual lighting. It is when you mix purple, pink, and blue, right? And these things are supposed to highlight the sexuality, the bisexuality of characters. And it was never actually said, but Damien Sandow wore purple tights with pink knee braces, and his coat was what color? Blue. So are we saying that this character was supposed to be bisexual, effeminate, gay? Well, the Genius was obviously effeminate, right? When you look at the Genius, he was obviously an overly effeminate Lanny Poffo. You could see what he was doing with his hands and how he used certain words and how he talked and how he was a poet. And a lot of poets tend to be effeminate anyway. And that's just, especially male poets, they tend to be kind of soft. That's just kind of a stereotype, that people kind of go with where, the eggheads are all head, no ass, You're not a tough guy. You ain't got no nuts. You're a smarty, smart. But it actually works. People respond to stereotypes. And so this Liberace kind of character was kind of just an extension of the whole intellectual savior of the masses. But it wasn't good. And to be quite honest, that's the one character. This is the one guy where I was hoping Vince would be wrong. That, maybe he had some talent and, he was going to go to TNA and show us all up, even though I knew that it wasn't going to work because it hadn't worked before. Like, it just doesn't, and it also shows that sometimes wrestlers don't have good ideas. If that was his original idea, it probably never would have worked because WWE was partnered even with like Glad and stuff, even back in 2012. It likely wouldn't have worked. But Sandow would have worked perfectly. Because people will always hate the know-it-all. It's just that people they kind of shy away from the whole gay stuff. They kind of like, I don't want nothing to do with that. Either, because that's really kind of how it is. Either they go all in with it, and they're like, oh my God, I love this, go girl. Or they're kind of like, ugh, just you avert your eyes, like, in order not to, get canceled and not to offend anybody, you just don't say anything. Which is kind of how people watch AEW. But I really do enjoy that Aron Rex failed, crashed and burned, because there was a lot of people, so many people, who swore up and down that this guy was going to be world champion anywhere that he decided to go, and that WWE doesn't know how to do anything with talent, and this guy has it all. And it didn't work even in TNA. Ha! Ha! Whenever I think about it, I get all warm and fuzzy. Oh boy. Anyway, like this video, share this video, comment on whether you remember Aron Rex or not. And I'll talk to you guys later.